One of the absolute best songs to start a concert with, I still contend. I think I might even like it better than Firebird Suite. Steve, what is happening here today?
Hi, Dad. Yeah, you're Dan. I'm Steve, and we're joined today by our guest, friend of the show. It is Bob Cesca, who has done the art for Yes's Magnification and Symphonic Live, including the newly re-released Symphonic Live. I think it just got released yesterday, and my copy is on the way in the mail. I saw that shipped. I'll have it in like a week. So, Bob, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me on the show, guys. Long time coming, and I'm glad to finally be here.
Same, yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious for the drummers out there. We're simulcasting on Yesshift and Drum Talk TV's channels. When Magnification, just a quick music note, no pun intended. When Magnification came out, not only did I love the cover, and we'll get to that, of course, but I played the heck out of that thing in my studio playing to it. So I'm curious if it resonated with other drummers so strongly like that. I just absolutely loved playing to that album. So I'm curious for other musicians and Yes fans where that sits. It was weird waiting for it, knowing that they were gonna do an album without a keyboard player, replaced with the orchestra. Like, okay, the orchestra I get, but it was just sort of a weird thing, and it was very well received. I saw the show at the Hollywood Bowl. It was brilliant. It was great.
It's such a wonderful album, Magnification. And I say that with a little bit of bias, of course, but it's got some music on it that is unique in the entire history of Yes's discography. Because, especially if you zero in on a song like Dreamtime, for example.
Right.
I challenge you to find another track that Yes had done up to that point that is kind of like Dreamtime. It's enormously unique in that respect. And so it's in the production value, the mixing, the engineering, everything sounds so great. I mean, it's the band really, these four members at the top of their game. And
Absolutely.
then you throw in Larry Groupet's orchestrations and how well that was woven into the existing tracks. And it's just an extraordinarily solid Yes album, and a historic one now that we look back in hindsight.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Covers too. We'll get to that.
Right. So we'll kind of bounce around to different places, but with Symphonic Live having just been re-released, and I'll show pictures of that as we discuss this, but how long has this re-release been in the works, and what was the process like? Did someone reach out to you? How did the ball get rolling?
Well, I mean, obviously, you rewind all the way back to 2001, 2002, when I was first commissioned to do the artwork for Magnification and then subsequently Symphonic Live. But the way this new reissue became a thing for me was, and I hate to start in a dark place, but it was actually Steve Howe's memoir that got me back into the swing of things with Yes and Yes artwork, because the chapter about Magnification, Steve expresses his dissatisfaction with the artwork for that album. And so what I wanted to do is, after 20 years, after a couple of decades, I wanted to reach out to Steve and reassure him that my participation in the band wasn't intended to push Roger Dean out of the picture.
Right.
In fact, I had nothing to do with that. I didn't actually lobby for the job. I was just kind of picked out of a hat when they were working on Magnification, and I wanted to reassure him that I always saw my role as a designer, as an illustrator for the sleeve art, more along the lines of a substitute, not a replacement for Roger Dean. Because quite honestly, no one can replace Roger Dean. His work is impeccable. And so I was coming in just as kind of an interloper temporarily for a couple of albums and then back to Roger Dean. And so when I read that in Steve's memoir, his dissatisfaction with the album art, I sent him a DM on Facebook and just to clear the air and explain all of those things. And that, I guess, got forwarded to the band's management and Mercury Studios, who simultaneous to this this outreach I was trying to attempt with Steve Howe, they were planning on doing this reissue. And so they let me know and they said, well, would you like to revisit that artwork? And I said, absolutely. In fact, I had done some reworking of the magnification art around the time of the 20th anniversary. So around 2021. And just to get my feet wet again, just to get back into the swing of things and revisit that artwork, because one of the things that had happened is when Magnification was getting released, I mean, the band was already on tour, things were rushed in the final stages, and I never really had a chance to check out what the artwork would look like when it was finally printed. And it turned out it was darker than I had seen on my screens and the test printings I had done, but there was no real opportunity to check that out before it went to production. And once things go into production, there's no stop the presses; it just goes.
Yeah.
So that was the thing, and so in these subsequent couple of decades, the internet, people making copies of copies of copies. What started as a dark cover got darker and darker and more pixelated and more pixelated.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? It's time to revisit this and spruce it up, and especially for the existence of 4K screens. So that was some of the motivation behind jumping back into these projects.
Very interesting. Have you gotten any feedback from Mr. Howe?
About the new stuff?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
In fact, I haven't talked to anyone in the band throughout the course of working on the artwork. So in that respect, no, I haven't communicated with them. Certainly my points of contact have been, the guys at Mercury Studios and to some extent the guys at yesworld.com and, Martin Darville and the band's management. So that's been the extent of it.
Interesting. It's exciting to have an album like this that I think it's fair to say a lot of Yes fans pass up to a degree, and to now see it celebrated with an exploded view, if you will, that's really cool. I think it's going to turn a lot of new fans on, or a lot of there'll be some new Yes fans because of it, and I think there'll be a lot of people who consider them Yes fans that aren't really into it that are going to wake up.
Oh yeah, most certainly, and it's well deserved. As we were saying, I mean, if you start at Magnification and move forward, it's an extraordinary album, and as I mentioned also a second ago, it's historic because it's the last time we would see John Anderson and Chris Squire in the studio together creating new music, and that would never happen again. So in that respect, I really, as far as my relatively minor involvement in the album, I really wanted to revisit this stuff to give the music and give the history of the band its due deference, with making sure that the album art looks as good as it can be. And so in that respect, I'm very grateful to the label and management and the band to allow me to come back in and revisit all of this stuff from the perspective of the history of Yes, if nothing else. And it is, you make a good point, because when Magnification first came out in 2001, first of all, terrible timing, which couldn't be avoided. The whole 9/11 coincidence of it all. Yeah. But I think also as fans, I think there were some skepticism about the absence of a dedicated keyboard player. Rick wasn't going to be able to participate in the recording of the album. And, it's always, I think new music is always met with a little bit of skepticism, especially for people who maybe got introduced to the band in the 70s and really latched on to that kind of flavor of Yes music, or maybe, as the case was with me, latching on to the 80s iteration of Yes and having that kind of flavor. So I think there was some skepticism with Magnification. But now, as you look back, and certainly as you go through YouTube and see a lot of the evaluations of magnification now, many years later, it's very well regarded. And I'm glad to see that because, as I said, it is one of the most truly progressive Yes albums in the most literal definition of the word, because you can't really point to anything prior to magnification that sounds like magnification. It's like,
Right.
as fans, I'm sure you guys have done this before. Well, this Open Your Eyes, that's sort of like the Yes West output from the early 80s, or
Right.
this going into Keys to Ascension. Well, that's kind of like the late 70s. Yes, but you can't really draw that parallel between magnification and some prior era.
Right.
I think it's unique in and of itself, and in that regard, an extraordinarily special album.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
I just
back
want
in
to go ahead, Steve.
oh,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah, I was just gonna say, in terms of comparing albums, like I know, even though Time and a Word had an orchestra, the approach was different. Like the sounds would replace certain instruments, and I know there's like a bit of a hubbub about that. Whereas on Magnification, it feels more complementary, like working together type of thing in the music, where the orchestral stuff doesn't feel like it's replacing anything. And maybe it helps that there was no keyboard player initially, but yeah, they basically had the space to play with, and it, like you said, makes for a unique sounding Yes album.
Yeah.
Yes, very cinematic, and it's not just because there's a symphony, orchestra. It's very cinematic, and you pointed out Dreamtime, my favorite track on the album, and it's just it has such a big, grandiose presence. Mention the mixing and all that. Bob, did you have access to the music the first time around when you did the artwork, and did you dive way back in doing these new iterations?
Yes, and yes to both of those questions. I was in constant communication with both Jordan Burliant, who was very integral in the creation of Magnification, and then also John Anderson. John and I collaborated quite a bit, and so I was getting bits of the music. Sometimes either Jordan would call me and just hold his phone up to the mixing console, and I would hear it that way. I remember hearing Don't Go for the first time that way, just over Jordan's phone. And then he started sending me some MP3 files, and I got, some samples of the music through that. And that was certainly helping to inspire the creation of the artwork, which, in case you missed it, I mean, I've talked about this many times before, but there's a whole story going on, a whole backstory with the Magnification and then subsequently the Symphonic Live artwork that was developed through John and I working together on this concept about interdimensional reality and things like that, those spheres and that machine. And John even wrote a short story called The Machine, which I don't think is even available anymore. I think you have to get it through the Internet Archives if you ever want to read it again. But yeah, he developed this whole backstory with this inventor and this whole thing with interdimensional reality, and that became the basis for what I wanted to do with the artwork for both of these albums is make it so that the concept was there, but it was a little bit vague, a little bit open to interpretation, so that when you got the album and both albums, you would have that experience that we all had when we were kids in the 70s and 80s. And, once we get the album, we look at the artwork and say, well, what does this mean? And then we're talking to our friends. Yeah, I noticed that thing. And how does that connect to the other thing? And is that kind of an illustration of a lyric, or what was the band thinking when they put this together? And that was really the hallmark of both Roger Dean's artwork, certainly the Hypnosis artwork, and probably my biggest influence, Hugh Syme and all of the Rush album covers, had, I think, that same idea that, the artwork, looking at the artwork goes hand in hand with listening to the music.
Yeah. And I like that and it's all personal interpretation, but I like when that does seem to lock in, like Close to the Edge, probably the biggest simple example, kind of like on the outside, huh? And then you open, it's like, oh my God, and you put it on and you're there.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And there was that great narrative between Fragile, Close to the Edge, and then eventually culminating in Elias of Sun Hillow, all
Yeah.
being part of the same thread. And so the same goes for Magnification and Symphonic Live, where all those things connect together. In fact, the imagery on Symphonic Live is an illustration of things that happened before the illustrations for Magnification. So in that continuity, we're kind of jumping back in time with Symphonic Live, even though that album came out after Magnification.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so
The album on
this
now.
yeah, like the timing of Symphonic Live being re-released now is pretty great because it's the 25th anniversary year of Magnification and that
Yeah.
tour. What was it like updating the artwork for Symphonic Live and expanding on that world that we had glimpsed before?
It was just a complete blast from start to finish, being able to jump back in and having access to 2025 at the time technology, and having been, 25 years older myself and having a lot more experience with illustration and computer graphics CG, and being able to exercise that experience, I think has been quite a gift throughout the process of redoing this stuff. And in fact, the reason Symphonic Live is out before the reissue of Magnification, it wasn't actually intended to be that way. I think they ran into some audio issues with the reissue of Magnification, so they decided to, Mercury Studios, that is, decided to drop Symphonic Live because that was ready to go. And
Interesting.
and I think Magnification, if I were to predict, I think Magnification will probably drop as a reissue right around the time of the exact 25th anniversary. I would guess that we're going to see the reissue for Magnification drop in September of this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't want to wait that long.
The
Well,
year
maybe
will
it'll
fly
be
by
beforehand.
fast. Like it normally
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It will.
I've been working with John D, who has been integral as far as working on the new mixes for the Magnification reissue. So, I've heard some of the work that he's been doing, and it's really outstanding. It's going to be worth the wait for sure.
That's neat. Steve, go back one, please. I just now noticed the adult and the child, it looks like, at the edge there. I didn't see that before. Interesting.
Yeah, that was an afterthought. What you're seeing here on the screen is what I've been referring to as the alternate cover. Originally, what I wanted to do was take the existing Symphonic Live CG scene and then update it with new technology. Basically apply new texture maps and things like that. Essentially, take the same layout and just spruce it up. And in the course of doing that, I ended up way off on this tangent that wound up being this version of, again, the alternate cover art. Because the reason it's the alternate cover art is because it began to deviate so much from the actual original 2002 Symphonic Live album art. So what I did was I ended up trying to pursue that 2002 version of the cover, and then off on this tangent with adding more things and a bit of a different vibe to it. Certainly the father and child in the distance there, standing way too close to the edge of that precipice. And then, and so I had to go back and start yet another cover that was a little bit closer to the actual 2002 cover. I didn't want to deviate too far. So I said, well, you know what? 2 covers. And that gave me the opportunity as well to add the Hypnosis version of the Roger Dean Yes logo, which we haven't seen since Going for the One in Tormato. And so I decided to take that treatment of the logo as a tribute to Aubrey Powell, Poe, who directed the Symphonic Live concert film. Aubrey Powell is one of the 2 guys from Hypnosis. So there are a lot of connections here between this new artwork, Roger Dean, and the Hypnosis guys, all mashed in together. Yeah.
And even though it's a different style, to me, it feels like this could coexist in the same universe as Roger Dean's other works that he's done for Yes.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. One of the things I didn't want to do is to try to imitate Roger Dean because his technique is so synonymous with Yes. The style of painting that he does has been so wound into. I mean, he's basically the sixth member of Yes. And so what I didn't want to do is try to knock off Roger Dean and do kind of a CG version of Roger Dean, but I wanted it to obviously be Yes-ish. I wanted it to reflect what we all know and are familiar with when it comes to their music, and be able to bring that kind of epic majesty to art without necessarily imitating Roger. And, as I said, one of my influences is Hugh Syme, who's the artist for all of the Rush covers going back to Caress of Steel. And so you probably, I've seen a few comments, people say, well, this looks a little bit like Hugh Syme. Well, it's an influence. He is a major influence in me. Again, I didn't set out to make it look like Hugh Syme. Sometimes that's just how it works out.
Very
interesting. And you got all these other bits of art here too that are in the set, right? Like we got this one. There's a set there.
Yeah, this is all developing the mythology of this narrative that John and I came up with 20 years ago. And what we're seeing here on the screen was kind of an afterthought. I wanted to create something that emphasized the connection between the ancient times and the modern times of this story of interdimensional reality and harmonic convergence and all these things that John is really into. So this artwork is kind of a bridge, and it's based upon a photo from 1911 by Herbert Ponting, and the original photo was called the Castle Berg, the castle iceberg. And so what I wanted to do was make it, I wanted to adjust it so it looked like it's this iceberg that's melting away, revealing an ancient talisman inside. And this explorer, who turns out to be Uncle Bettis from John Anderson's Machine story, discovering the talisman and then nabbing one of the spheres from it, as you can see attached to the back of the dog sled. Those poor dogs. Those poor dogs have to haul that thing wherever they're going. And so that's the backstory behind that. It was sort of a last minute thing that we were doing right at the end of the process last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And we also got this one with the ocean. Wow. And is that a whale there?
Yes, that is a humpback whale, and this is my tribute to the great Chris Squire, who we lost back in 2015. And I know, I get it. I know a whale is not a fish technically.
I was wondering if you're going to address that.
Yeah, but it does kind of remind me of the "Don't Kill the Whale" single. How that one looks.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Exactly right. That's also what I was thinking about. Don't Kill the Whale, because that was a Squire song. Squire wrote that.
Yeah.
And so this is definitely a callback to that song, and just kind of representing Chris Squire. I named this particular illustration "Giant Under the Sun," and that's what that's all about. Yeah, that's just my little nod to Chris.
That's beautiful. Look at
that. Oh, we got this lightning one as well. I think I need to arrow this other way. And there are a few others we have of you holding this stuff as well. There we go. There's the
there you go.
Nice. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that is the when I learned that they were doing a vinyl edition for the reissue, I wanted to create a unique gatefold illustration for Symphonic Live. And that's what this turned out to be. And that just the excitement about getting to do a 24-inch by 12-inch, 2 feet by 1 foot illustration was just a blast. And so I had the most fun doing this one. It's all CG, and it's got some hand-drawn elements, obviously the lightning and everything like that. But yeah, this is your few tiny little Easter eggs in there if you got your magnifying glass out. But obviously the 4 talisman, 3 of them on top, so the mountains there in the background, and then the one in the water in the foreground. 4 members of the band for Symphonic Live, so 4 talisman. all
Yeah.
working together to generate this energy and relaying it between each of their center spheres there, as you can see.
Chris close to the water, obviously.
Yes, yes, that's right. Mountains come out of the sky, etc.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
hmm
That's great.
Beautiful.
Yes.
And I'll show pictures of the like Blu-ray 2 CD set and the 4 LP set as well in a moment. But so
Okay.
we know the art is updated. You add all this stuff. What else is different, and what carries over from previous releases of Symphonic Live?
Well, as far as I can only really speak to the illustration side, the artwork side, which I mean, my function in all of this was just to provide the illustrations, and I would hand it off to Mercury Studios, and they have a dedicated art director who adds all the liner notes and the text elements and puts it all together in a formal layout and so forth, and then. As I mentioned, John D has been working on some of the audio elements of magnification, but with Symphonic Live, I think with the vinyl edition, I want to say the couple of things that are new about that is, first of all, it's a half-speed master for the vinyl, which is supposed to improve the quality of it because the needle cutting the groove stays there longer, which improves the overall quality of those grooves in the vinyl. Yeah. And then the existence of Ritual live for the very first time on vinyl. I think that's what makes the LP edition so unique. And then they've got that etching where they took the alternate cover that I made and did an etching on one of the blank sides of one of the several LPs. Oh. Yeah, there it is. That's it right there.
Neat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the most exciting aspect of all this. I mean, not to sidestep the CD Blu-ray edition too much, but the really exciting thing, especially for someone of my generation, I mean, I'm 54 years old, having all of this stuff in 12 by 12 formatting and just the large form versions of the artwork and all that stuff. That's the really exciting aspect of this reissue, that vinyl edition. Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing about Ritual is that, you mentioned that this is the first time it's been on an LP release of Symphonic Live. I vaguely remember there was some weird thing where Songs from Songas was released on Blu-ray and it had Ritual, but they put it as a bonus feature for some reason instead of making it part of the concert. Yeah. And I've also seen an abridged version of Symphonic Live that was on streaming somewhere. Like I don't remember if it was Tubi or Peacock or something, but it was kind of weird. And I think they might have omitted that as well. So it's like a little bit of a curse, perhaps. That's great to have that included here in this LP version.
Yeah, well, I wanted to break some news for you guys as far as both of these albums go, and it's not great news. It's actually kind of surprising, but the original master edit, we'll start with Symphonic Live. The actual video edit of Symphonic Live has been lost. It's gone. So what happened was originally. Yeah, there's a whole thing in the fan community about the animations that appear in the concert film. And the original intention with those animations was rear screen projection for the concert. And I think at some point they decided they were just going to put them into the actual, at the time, the DVD. And those of us who have the DVD know that it's on a different layer. So you can turn off the animations and just watch the concert film. Right. For whatever reason, because the ownership and licensing of this stuff ends up changing hands over time, that got lost. Somehow the multi-layered edit of Symphonic Live got lost. And so when it got to the Blu-ray, they just, for some reason, it just got embedded into the edit where the animations are within the actual video. So you can't take them out. You can't extract them. And so there was actually a period of time where, as I was saying, I was working with one of the producers on the audio side, John D., and he and I were on this like a treasure hunt, like we were like Indiana Jones or something, trying to track down the original edit
Yeah.
of Symphonic Live. In fact, I even wrote to Aubrey Powell from Hypnosis, the director, as I said, of the concert film. And so, do you have the edit? Is there a hard drive somewhere that has this material on it so that we can present the album with the separate layers, or just get rid of the animations entirely, because they're really of the time and they weren't intended to be part of the home video release. They were just supposed to be projected onto the screen in the back. And because whatever happened with the concert tour and the logistics of it just didn't get used. So, but the most disturbing part of that is here is an historic album where the master tapes, the master edit is gone, just disappeared.
And not from 60 years ago, but
No.
relatively recently. How do you lose track of something like that?
Yeah. And worse, the story gets worse. The original tapes or I don't know if they're tapes, but the original mixing, the original tracks, the stems and everything for magnification also are gone. So no one knows. I mean, once again, John D and I were in touch with Tim Widener and Jordan Burliant, and we reached out to John Anderson and Steve Howe and everyone who is involved with magnification who's still around. Do you have the original tapes, quote unquote, from magnification so that we can use the stems to, create new mixes? And gone, vanished.
I remember that it was recorded in Santa Barbara, but I don't recall where it was mastered, if it was at that. But that's just crazy. Before we go to my next question, let's look at comments. It looks like there's some people chiming in. Let's see. Billy Lagrisi, watching on YouTube, says, hi, Bob, Steven, and Dan, and music and art lovers. Also says, got to give a like for my, drummy buddies. Yeah, for sure. Thanks. Bella mentions The Ladder is also a standout album with a different sound. Love that Igor brought in terms of integrating newer sounds into the mix. Also, Brisland is such a genius. And on The Ladder, I like that you mentioned that. That production is so good. I love that album. And the songs are good too. That the playing is all right. Just kidding.
The Ladder is a wonderful, wonderful album.
It is.
Hats
that was
off
a great
to,
show too.
Yeah, Bruce Fairbairn, who died shortly after recording the album, did such a wonderful job of capturing the essence of Yes and incorporating Billy into the process as a full member during that iteration of the band. And
it's such a good album.
Wonderful album. Yeah. In fact, I remember very distinctly when I first met Jordan Burliant. We met up for some other business in New York City. And I discovered just by coincidence that he was not only a Yes fan, but was also the manager of the band. And I said, my stepdaughter is a huge fan of Billy Sherwood. And he said, yeah, Billy's not in the band anymore. I was like, damn. And that's when Jordan told me about the original idea for magnification, which was to create an hour-long song. Like the whole album was going to be one song, an hour long, and you can still kind of see hints of that with the song Magnification, the lead track, bleeding into Don't Go, and then it bleeds into Spirit of Survival. And then that bleeds into Don't Go. And so they preserved a little teeny tiny bit of that original idea, but obviously the idea of doing an hour-long song as one track, my guess is, didn't sit very well with the label. I'm just guessing. Yeah.
Hey, and by the way, we are all busted. None of us caught this. Ritual is on vinyl on Yes shows.
No, the live version from Symphonic Live, the version with
that's what we were. That's what we were specific.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Like when they released, exactly. I think the original vinyl edition of Symphonic Live didn't have Ritual on it. This is the first time that version, the symphonic version of Ritual, has been presented on vinyl.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Peter McInnes 1055 says on YouTube, hi guys, Gilly. Oh, it's Gilly here. Love the new artwork, Bob. The definitely
thank you.
Historic work. Yeah, that's really cool. Oops, I
Yeah, I've
almost
noticed
just-
he's shared it around in a bunch of different places, and I'm very grateful for that. I
Oh,
really
that's
appreciate
cool.
the support. Yeah, yeah.
That's great. We also heard recently that you were to do the art for the 2002. God, it sounds so long ago. In a word, box set. But when they got Roger Dean on board for that instead, you allowed your artwork to be used for with a CY Siberian Couture album by Yes fans on alt.music.yes. Tell us about that period. How did that all go down?
Yeah, I don't think the next project that I was asked to work on after Symphonic Live was the Squire Sherwood album, Conspiracy, The Unknown, which was their second album, the second Billy and Chris album.
Right.
I was never really, I don't think I was commissioned to work on any other Yes albums from after Symphonic Live. But yeah, that's it right there. That's the Conspiracy album cover.
Yeah.
So it might be a little bit of a rumor that was floating around. Perhaps.
Yeah. You know what? The artwork that was on that Siberian Contrue bootleg, that was just something I was experimenting with during that period of time, somewhere between Magnification and Symphonic Live. I just wanted to see. I was testing out software, and so I built kind of a Roger Dean style Morglade kind of vessel, and had a couple of them embedded in ice, and it was just running the software through its paces and seeing what it could do. There was never any intention for that to be an actual commissioned project.
Wow.
Obviously, going back to what I was saying about not wanting to borrow too much Roger Dean imagery. Yeah. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Right. Yeah. And so you mentioned Conspiracies, the Unknown. Was it Chris who contacted you to do that? How did that go down in the timeline?
That was Billy. I became pretty good friends with Billy in that period. It was around, I want to say 2004, 2005. I actually I was running an animation studio at the time, and I reached out to Billy to do some music work for some of the cartoons I was working on. And in that process too, that's when we got to working on the cover for The Unknown. And then I did a cover for what was supposed to be the third Squire Sherwood album. It was the working title was called Psyop. And so I did a full cover for the Conspiracy Psyop album. And that I think they had trouble finding a label for that one. So it kind of died on the vine.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's too bad because I love the cover. That's one of my favorite things I've ever done, which I don't think you even have a copy of it there. But one of my favorite things I've done as far as sleeve art goes is that Psyop album cover. It continues the same theme from The Unknown, the central character of The Unknown artwork, which is this escapee from this processing factory, runs away, and then later on gets a sort of a mechanical body. It's just this whole storyline. I always like to incorporate some kind of narrative into what we're doing and link up the artwork. So that was the idea behind the Psyop album art.
Interesting.
Yeah. So was this Psyop art ever used for anything else? Is it available anywhere?
No, I think I posted it. I don't even think that's online anymore.
Can you look down to your...
I had a website that was up for a while that I have since taken down that had that artwork on it. But I'll have to send it to you. I'll send you a copy.
Look down to the left, and that bottom drawer. Just open that drawer and pull it out and hold it up.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, no, can't do that. I don't think it's here.
I'd love to see that. Yeah. And I want to ask Billy now because let's think about this for a moment. That was then. Mm-hmm. This is now. Who needs a effing record label now? People are self-publishing and all of that. Even our friend Derek Schulman said, yeah, there's not really bands getting signed to labels. Mm-hmm. There is, but it has really gone to self-publishing. I would love for Billy to do something like that and honor that music that he did with Chris and see your cover.
Right. I think he may have used, and you'll have to ask Billy about this, but he may have used some of those recordings as the impetus for his Circa project.
Oh,
so
okay.
They may have reappeared in some form or another in later work. Yeah.
Okay.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll have to ask him if there are any maybe demos or something from that period, because even those might be interesting to hear if they can find a
Yeah.
home somewhere. But yeah, very
Right.
interesting stuff.
Yeah,
But going,
shortly after that, I did some work with Asia was going through all kinds of flux in the mid
oh yeah,
2000s or so, and so I think at one point it got renamed GPS, and so
Really?
like the John Payne iteration of
Oh,
Asia
yeah, it was like
split
their
off and became
spin-off band. Yeah.
yeah, and so I did a logo for GPS and one of their albums at around that same period of time. And somehow I get linked up with bands that are constantly going through label changes and personnel changes and all kinds of interpersonal politics and people leaving and coming back. And it's always interesting.
Yeah, that's the nature of the business, I guess.
Very much so.
But going even further back, how did you get involved in art, on this particular journey as an artist?
Well, I'd always been into it. I'd always, certainly, since I ran an animation studio, I was always into cartoon artwork and animation and things like that. Ran an animation studio. In fact, that's how, through my cartoons in that kind of late 90s, early 2000s .com era, that's how I connected with Jordan Burliant, because I had done a cartoon that satirized Lars Ulrich and Metallica's lawsuit against Napster. And so I did this cartoon called Napster Bad, which was a parody of Lars Ulrich freaking out about people stealing their music and distributing them on Napster. And that kind of got me onto the radar of a lot of musicians. And in fact, one of the first bands I ended up working with doing some cartoons for was Motley Crue. I did a music video for them, and they wanted to do their own version of Napster Bad, which was really crazy because then I within about a couple of hours, I wrote up this script, and they were in the studio recording their new album, and so I sent them this script, and they recorded the dialogue for it, and then I animated it the next day, and
wow.
so that was kind of a thing, and then I did some work also, some animation work for Meatloaf and. I want to say Everclear in the mix there too. But it's funny going back even further. I remember one of the assignments that I had for high school. I was in art class in high school, and one of our assignments was to draw a self-portrait of ourselves 30 years later or something like that, or just like as an as an established person. Obviously I was around 15 at the time, and the first year, second year of high school. And one of the drawings I did of myself was me sitting at an easel drawing an album cover for Iron Maiden, which at that time, when I was 15 years old, Iron Maiden was a big deal for me. And so what was crazy about that is, fast forward 30 years later, and I was doing music videos for Iron Maiden as well. So
that's awesome.
I mean, at one point, yeah, because of the Napster cartoon and the visibility of that, Iron Maiden had me go back to some of their existing music videos and take out some of that black and white stock footage and replace it with some new animated scenes in there.
Neat.
And so, yeah, so it was crazy, linking that up with my ambition as a 15-year-old, finally getting to do something similar like that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it had always been in my wheelhouse, the idea of doing things like this. And so to have the opportunity, especially being such an enormous Yes fan, it was mind-blowing, the entire process from start to finish. I mean, John Anderson calling me at 8:30 in the evening to talk about harmonic convergence and the fairy kingdom and things like that was just you can imagine being a Yes fan and listening to John Anderson in your ear talking about all of this mysticism and some of the concepts that became the magnification storyline, narrative, and so on, was just so utterly exciting.
That's awesome. Second to last question.
Yes.
Do you have, well, of course you do. What is your favorite Yes album? And if it's Symphonic Live or Magnification, what would be behind that? But take it, it's all yours. What's your absolute, you'd never get tired of it, Yes album?
The first album that comes to mind to answer that question is Going for the One. I think that is.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
obviously it's a toss up between that and Close to the Edge. And for me, my first Yes album, the first Yes album I owned was 90125. So that's got a special place in my heart as well.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just an incredible album. So it's a difficult choice. It's a crowded field at the top.
Yes.
So between those three albums vying for the top spot, I got to go with Going for the One. Awaken is hands down my favorite rock song that has ever been recorded ever.
Which one? Sorry?
Awaken.
Oh yeah, it's John too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Awaken. I've told everyone I know that when I die, I want Awaken played at my funeral. I mean, that's how much I love that song. It's just
Same.
so
It's
incredibly
gonna
connect
be
with
my
it.
memorial. Same exact thing. Yeah, it is
yeah.
just brilliant. It really is.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that's just for starters on that album because talk about Murderer's Row of great Yes songs.
Yeah.
It's Going for the One and then Turn of the Century and then Parallels and Wondrous Stories and Awaken. This is Yes, I think at its absolute pinnacle of creativity, everything. I love the fact that it's loaded with reverb. I love everything about that album.
Yeah. Except maybe the cover.
The cover's okay. I mean, look, Hypnosis, those guys were also at the top of their game at the time. Yeah.
They were, but here's the thing. That album sounds, if there's an album that deserves a Roger Dean cover to match with the music, that's it. With Turn of the Century, with Wondrous Stories, with Away. And then we got the two buildings in Century City, part of Los Angeles, and the guy's butt. Like, what?
Right.
But the label's an hour-long song on
Magnification. Yeah, and apparently there was a Roger Dean illustration that he wanted to use for Going for the One. I forget exactly which one. I think he's released it and said, "Well, this was Going for the One album cover."
It sounded like Roger described it as that floating island one with the tree. I think it's called Flights of Icarus, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's it.
And he has recalled how like when he tried meeting with a band, he met with John Anderson, and John had like a different idea, and there were like creative differences, and and one thing led to another, and I guess the label like ended up giving them the Going for the One cover or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I've never been privy to the negotiations behind the scenes or what the relationship is between say, for example, John Anderson and Roger Dean. Obviously, Steve and Roger are quite close. They're good friends.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly what happened, but I feel as though during the writing and recording of Magnification, they went through a similar process as they went through with Going for the One, where there was the idea, okay, we're going to use Roger for this, but then something happened that I don't know about that led to, in that case, the case of Going for the One, Hypnosis being hired to do the cover. I mean, they were very popular at the time. Aubrey and Storm were extraordinarily popular as album artists, legendary. And so maybe there was some interest in that. Maybe there was some interest. I mean, I'm just hypothesizing, but maybe there was something as far as calling attention to the album in some way, because for whatever reason, maybe they thought that the Roger Dean artwork was turning off a certain segment of the marketplace and they wanted to reach out to new audiences in some way. I don't know what the motivation was.
I think you're correct on that one, since Roger Dean's artwork has never really drawn attention to any of the albums.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously that's not what I'm saying, obviously, but I just, again, I don't know whether there was a marketing consideration there, whether there was a licensing consideration there, some kind of ownership thing, some kind of money thing. Obviously, at the time of Going for the One, Yes was basically swimming in cash like Scrooge McDuck. I mean, this has been famously written about throughout Yes history, that period of time they had a lot of money and they were spending a lot of money. So maybe there was some thriftiness that came in. I don't know what the point was. I mean, it couldn't have been inexpensive to hire the Hypnosis guys. That had to have cost money too. So I don't know,
and
if
it's a gatefold album cover too.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
So it just, It's a huge missed opportunity, I think.
Mhm.
I want to know, when's the reissue coming up with the Flight of Icarus? That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and whatever may have happened behind the scenes with magnification, either way, like it got you into the mix and on this journey, and you were able to also,
Yeah.
like we showed earlier, include that newer artwork, and like I'm glad that we were on that path either way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I feel as though my experience with magnification, in hindsight, was a little sour because of what happened with the printing and not being able to see any proofs before it went into production. But I feel like that's been kind of a trial by fire for a lot of album artists, for a lot of sleeve artists. Certainly, Hugh Syme went through that with Caress of Steel, where there was some printing issue with the cover for Caress of Steel. There was supposed to, it turned out bronze. I think the relief art on the cover was supposed to be a different color than he intended, and it came out differently for him. And so the opportunity to revisit that artwork for the reissue of Caress of Steel was an important project for Hugh. And that happens a lot. I mean, in fact, it happened on the very first Rush album, where I think the logo was supposed to be red and it looks fuchsia or pink.
Yeah, it's like a
when
pink
it was finally printed.
Rouge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a Rush job, that one?
Or, with Vapor Trails on the music side was a little bit overly compressed and a little crunchy sounding. So when Rush had the opportunity to go back in and revisit the mix on Vapor Trails, they certainly took that opportunity to spruce it up a little bit. So these are the sorts of things that happen, especially with music and albums where there are a lot of moving parts to it.
And a lot of people's hands in at different phases and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And with magnification, getting to go back in and revisit the artwork also allowed me to go back in and reconnect with what my original intention was with the cover, which it started out being something that was more elaborate with the IDR machine in there. And then I think John wanted to go for something that was a little bit more mysterious, something that was a little bit more basic. So John was really integral in the artwork for magnification, as far as, I know there's a lot of controversy about the size of the Yes logo on the magnification cover. That was John. John, I think, was very hands-on. As we all know, John is wonderful and creative, and he's such a great guy. He also is deeply involved with every aspect of the production of a Yes album. And certainly that was the case with magnification as well. So it was fun to go back in and kind of pull out the original idea that I had for the album cover, which was a little bit more elaborate, but still somewhat straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah. That's neat.
Yeah. And we have these photos of you holding up copies of Symphonic Live. So I'll cycle through those. There's the LP with an iceberg picture. There's the one with the whale. There's a CD. There's a poster. Looks very nice. And there's the front cover right there. So really nice.
That was an exciting day to finally get those copies, the hard copies, in the mail from Mercury Studios. Just a long time coming. The process of putting together that artwork for specifically Symphonic Live came at a very difficult time. My dad had died. That's kind of the impetus behind the father and child in the distance of the alternate cover. And so I'll always remember that period of time very distinctly while I was working on all of this new artwork for Symphonic Live, and to that extent, the magnification artwork prior to it.
It's all great stuff. I'm going to pass it back to Steve for one last hazing question.
Okay.
Sure. Bring it on.
Folks, folks, if you want to order Symphonic Live, you can do so via the link in the description of this. But one final question for you, Bob. When you're not working on art or anything music, when you're not working on anything, what do you like to do for fun in your free time?
Well, the operative word in that question is free time, of which I have very little because I don't know if you know this about me, but I do like 38 podcasts a week.
Right.
I have my own podcast, the Bob Cesca Show, which is very political. I'm liberal, and so it's from that perspective. And then also I do a Star Trek podcast with Mary Trump, the president's niece. And so she and I have been doing that on and off since 2023. So that's a lot of fun to do. That's a great sideline from being ensconced in politics all day, just getting together with Mary and talking about Star Trek episodes. But yeah, I hope that I have the opportunity to do more artwork because for me it's very therapeutic. So that's just the opportunity to be able to step away from everything and just really ensconce myself in art is. I always take that opportunity because it's just from an emotional point of view, from a spiritual point of view, it's very healthy and rewarding and satisfying, especially once you get to this part of the process, getting to the actual holding of the artwork in your hands.
Right. It becomes so real. Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
Awesome. One last comment I'm going to read here.
Okay.
Dave Watkinson says, going for the one the cover fits. It really does. It is edgy, current, and inside beautiful. The triple fold out for going for the one was amazing. Yep. The contrast of inner and outer sleeves is shocking. It would be hard to beat relayer, but Rick was back. Whoop, it just moved. But Rick was back, and an excitement was there. John wanted to change. Going for the one, it was a great cover. If any slight out of place, the RD logo was a bit too basic. BC, well done, meaning you,
thank you.
on all the work for Yes. Yeah, good take, Dave. Absolutely. And thanks for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for all your comments. And whether you watched live on Facebook or YouTube on the Yesshift channels and Drum Talk TV, shout out to all my Drum Talk TV peeps. Or if you're watching on the archive, go ahead and comment on these videos. We're going to send Bob the links.
All right. Excellent.
Cool. Thank you. Steve, how can they get a hold of us? God forbid they actually want to write us.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I kind of get scared about the idea that people can tell us whether they like our show or not, but they can write to us via yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. They can also follow us at Yesshift on Facebook and YouTube. And the audio version, you can see all the places we're at on anchor.fm/Yesshift, or just search Yesshift in a podcast app. You'll probably find us. And if not, you're tough out of luck. I don't know what to tell you, but we're easy to find, I think.
And on the Drum Talk TV side, we got a lot of stuff happening. You can go to our calendar of events, which also has some Yesshift shows listed every month as well. That's at www.drumtalktvbrilliance.com. Scroll down and stay current and have fun with us talking about music. It's your show too, folks. And Bob, thanks for making time. It's been great finally having you on.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate the opportunity. I hope everyone enjoys the new Yes albums.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thanks,
for sure.
We'll see you all soon somewhere.